The equipment I'll be talking about will be the Sunpack tripod, the Canon R72 camcorder and battery, the boom pole, the lav mic, the Sony shotgun mic, headphones, and the extension cable for the Sony shotgun mic. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the tripod. It comes in a bag, which you unzip and remove the tripod from. It has 3 legs, of course, and there are 3 locks to unlock to release the legs. If they don't slide out easily, you can just give them a little tug and they should come out. Lock them all back down, spread it open, and there you go. So looking at the head, we can see there's a pan handle here to pan left and right, and you can also tilt up and down. So this is the tilting motion and the panning motion. Now this pan handle is also a lock for the tilting motion. So if I turn this clockwise all the way, it locks the tilt. So I can't raise it up and down. Likewise, the panning motion has a lock as well, and it's right here. So we turn that clockwise, and it locks as well. There's a lock on this side, right here, and that unlocks and locks the crank. So it's really important. This part is extremely important because this crank can be easily broken, and you want to make sure this is unlocked before you crank this up. So you can crank this up, and it will go to, on this tripod, about 5 feet, a little over 5 feet. And once you've raised it to the height you need it to be, you can just lock it back down. Make sure you lock that down, because if you don't, it could just slip, or it won't take much weight to put that back down. There's one more lock that you probably won't use. It's this one right here, and if we unlock that, it loosens the head, so it can you can shoot in portrait mode, but that would really be for still photography, not for video, so let's not worry about that or use it. On the head, there's also a bubble level, so if you need to balance the tripod, you can use that as an aid. So the process would be to raise or lower one or more of the legs to get yourself level and, of course, get the little bubble in the target. So we have to take the plate off of the tripod to screw it onto the camera. It comes off on this particular tripod by pulling back this lever here, and it slides backwards. It comes up and sort of slides back. And likewise, it will, well, this will just snap back, but when you put it back in, when the camera's attached to it, you'll pull this back, it'll slide in from the rear and down, and you'll release the lever. If the lever doesn't go all the way, you can just give it a little push, and you're good to go. So we have our camcorder here, and on the bottom there is a threaded hole, and there's just a regular hole, and they line up to this tripod plate. So what we'll do is we'll just align those, put it in, and we're going to screw the bottom of this into the camera. What we don't want to do is just plunk this plate on here and start screwing the whole plate, because that is a recipe for disaster. That is to say, it will probably break off the little pin that's here, and that's going to make it a little harder to keep the camera attached securely to the tripod. Before we put it on the tripod, we're going to put the battery on the camcorder. The battery slides up from the bottom on this camcorder and just clicks into place, just like that. It's also worth noting that some camcorder configurations are such that you cannot put the battery on after you put the tripod plate on, because the tripod plate gets in the way. So for this camera, it's not a problem. For some others, you may have to put the battery on before you put this on, otherwise this will block it. So we have our camera on our tripod. We probably want to go ahead and open the lens cap. On this particular one, it's a manual switch, so unlike some of our other camcorders that open automatically when you open the LCD door, this one just has a switch right here. So it pushes down to open it, and it's open. On the back is the start-stop button. Press it once to start, press it again to stop the recording. If the battery is attached, it will turn on as soon as you open the door. And there are a few very important things you can see here. There's a mic jack. This is where you plug in your microphone. This is the headphone jack. There's a headphone icon there. The SD card that it records to is behind this door. It records to a 32 gigabyte SD card that we provide. Even though it does power on when you open the LCD door, there is an on-off switch here and a button for playback to view the videos that you've recorded. And on the top is the zoom rocker switch. On the back, there's an access light that flashes when the SD card is being accessed. So whenever that's flashing, you do not want to remove the card. So typically, if you're recording or you're playing back, that's when that light will be flashing. Also, there's a power charge light. Obviously, it's green because we're powered up. And it flashes orange when you are charging the battery. In the flip-out screen, there are a few important things to notice. At the top left, you'll see the battery life remaining, currently 79 minutes. There's an I over on the right, and that gives you some other information that's not visible. 2 hours, 56 minutes left on the SD card, and we're shooting at 30p MP4 video at 24 megabits per second. So we can make that disappear again. By the way, this is obviously a touch screen. And there's a home button over here, which takes you to some menus and sub-menus, and there's a lot of stuff inside here that is probably beyond the scope of this tutorial, but we'll X out of that. There are some important things in the menu over here on that button, and we can override some of the automatic features inside of here. So I'm going to scroll up a bit, and the important ones maybe to override would be focus, exposure, mic level, and white balance. For example, if, say, you wanted to change the exposure a little bit, you'd hit that. Right now we're in automatic exposure, but you would just hit M, it lights up red. It's in manual exposure now, and you can use these arrows on either side, hitting those, or you can just drag here to darken or lighten the image. I'm going to go back to auto by hitting M again, getting out of that. And let's just go back to this. And I want to show you the white balance and how to change that and what white balance actually even is. The short version is we're trying to get the colors right. Auto white balance is what it's currently on, and it's doing its best job of getting the colors right. It's going to be a little blue here because it's just the nature of the camcorder that's shooting this screen. But if for some reason your colors weren't right, using auto white balance, you could do a custom white balance, and you would use the button on the right. These other two are for daylight, for tungsten light, which you typically find in some professional lighting situations, and the custom white balance would be if you have multiple light sources that don't really match and you need to fix that. You can just hit this, and the process for that is you have to put a white sheet of paper, typically in front of your subject. So you would put it right in front, say you're shooting a person, you would put it right in front of that person's face, and you want to fill the screen as much as possible. You want to go ahead and zoom in. In the case of this, I'm just going to move it forward. And then you hit the set white balance button. And while that flashes, that means it's setting the white balance. When it goes away, it's done. So your colors would be correct. Again, this is going to be not correct, but what I'm seeing is correct and what you're seeing is not, because of the nature of the camera that's shooting it. And even if you didn't use the custom white balance, it's good to know how to access it in case you have to fix it. If somebody gave you a camera and the colors weren't right and it just wasn't doing the right thing, you would know where to go to find that and fix it, and either set your custom white balance or go to auto white balance to correct that. I'm going to cancel out of that. And one more thing to mention would be these audio meters at the bottom. These are minus decibel levels, so it's actually 0, -12, -40. And it currently is in automatic, and you could change that if you wanted to, but it's doing a pretty good job right now of getting my voice through its internal microphones right now, because I don't have any microphone plugged in, but -12 is a good level for voice. It's going a little high, but it's not It's not peaking out or it's not distorting right now, so it's doing a good job. But it's good to see that because, for one thing, you know you're getting audio in case you're not wearing headphones, which you should be doing, but also that you're getting a good level. Going back to the playback button, once you hit that, it brings up a series of thumbnails of what you shot, and you can play back those recordings if necessary just by hitting it and playing back, and you should be able to see it and hear it through headphones. And you can swipe through various other screens, and to go back to regular camera mode, you would simply just hit the playback button again. One more thing, when you start the recording, you will notice you get the red dot at the top and a time code count as well. When you stop the recording, it returns to normal. This camera actually has very good autofocus. However, if there is a situation where it's having trouble focusing on the right thing, say there's multiple faces in a shot and you want to focus on a specific face, there is a touch autofocus where it tracks the face. I can show you a very crude example of this. So it's already tracking my face. So if I do this and move, it's going to track me. So if there are multiple faces, you might find one. You're going to find multiple squares, and you'll just touch that face that you want to prioritize, and it will track that face. Inside your camera bag, you will find a power adapter for charging your battery. So one end plugs into the port that says DC in, and this end plugs into the power. When you plug it in, the power charge light comes on, and when it's fully charged, the power charge light goes off. It's important that while you're charging it, your camera is actually turned off, otherwise it's not charging. This AC adapter can also be used to power your camera even without the battery. All you do is plug it into a regular outlet and you're good to go. We will check out to you a fully charged battery. However, it's always a good idea to charge your battery before your shoot just to top it off because batteries do lose power just sitting on the shelf. On the front of the camera, there are a pair of stereo microphones here. But those are not going to be your best bet for recording most good quality audio. They'll do okay for your nat sound, say that you'll use for your B-roll, but if you're recording voices, they're definitely not your best option. What you'll want to do is use the mic jack here, and don't forget your headphones, of course, but it's important not to switch these up either, or you will get no audio at all, because while this camera has onboard microphones that I just showed you, once you plug a microphone in here, it takes over and it cancels out the onboard mic, and this becomes the active mic. So it's really important that you plug the mic into the mic jack, not into the headphone jack, and that you plug it all the way in, and if it has a power switch, make sure it is powered up and the batteries are working. So we're going to plug in the Lavalier mic, or Lav mic for short, and that goes into the mic jack. You'll notice that we have lost our audio. So you can see that there's no audio levels there. The reason is because I haven't turned on the mic. So once you plug something in, it eliminates your audio until you turn on the power. So some mics don't have power, but this one does. So it comes with a power switch, and there's a battery in here, but we'll go ahead and turn that on. You'll see the red there when it's on. And now we have levels. So what we're getting now is the level coming through this microphone. So this is a clip-on microphone, and it's something that is used in interviews, and it's okay for this to be seen. You just don't want the cable to be seen. So getting a better look at the lav mic, we have the microphone itself with the clip. We have the switch, which contains the battery, and we have an additional extension of cable here, and of course where it plugs in. So in total, this is about 10 feet of cable. So the microphone itself has a clip, which is removable. You'll want to pull it down and then out. And in some cases, you might have to flip it around and put it back on. as I said before, there is the power switch. You'll want to keep this turned off when you're not using it, because it runs the power down no matter whether you're plugged in or not. So make sure you keep that off, otherwise you're just running your battery down. And the battery lives in here. There's a little latch, and you just pull back on that and the door comes off, and the battery is in there. We'll give you an extra battery to go along with this. Okay, so this is the microphone I'm using to actually record this video. But the microphone that I just showed you, I'll just put it on for demonstration purposes right here. So I have it on, but it's really not ready yet, because you'll notice the one above it has the cable dressed inside my shirt and is running down my shirt. This one is just hanging like this, and so what needs to happen is the cable itself needs to go into my shirt and down my shirt. You can't just have the cable hanging like this. You can have the microphone visible, that's fine, but not the cable. Also, if you want, you can get this foam windscreen for your microphone. It won't knock out the hurricane force winds, but it might help with some light breezes and breathing issues. So another mic you might use would be the shotgun mic. This is a Sony shotgun, and it comes with a relatively short cable. We have an extension for it. It's a 10-foot extension. So when you get this microphone, it's not something you can check out, but just ask for this along with it if we didn't already include it. So this is a shotgun, and it's a very directional microphone, so it picks up what's coming directly in front of it. So you'll want to point this at the person's mouth. You can get a little farther away than with a typical microphone like the one I'm wearing. But again, you want to get it as close as possible, typically not getting it in the shot. So the mic has an on-off switch, and when you turn it on, there's a red light here. It comes on just momentarily, and then it goes right back out. There's also the on setting. There's two settings. There's a normal and a low cut setting. The low cut setting is for cutting low frequency room tone. You normally are going to want to stay in the normal setting. It also uses a AA battery and has a removable furry wind muff. This is popularly known as a dead cat, but if you don't like the terminology, furry wind muff works. So I've attached the extension cable to the shotgun microphone, and we're going to attach all of this to the boom pole. It snaps right in there, and the boom pole extends about 7 feet. There are these two locks for the 3 stages. So one lock and 2. Lock that down securely. And we get about 7 feet of length on this. I'll back up so you can see that a little bit better. And we definitely don't want this cable just hanging down like that, because we're going to be bringing this in to the shot, and we definitely don't want that just hanging there. So we need to wrap that around the pole, and the easiest way to do that is just to spin the pole. And we're good to go. So we're typically going to bring this in from out of the shot and have this hanging down over the person's head, where this microphone can point at the person's mouth and pick up the voice clearly. Now, you definitely don't want that in the shot. You definitely don't want this in the shot. And you want to try to stay away from shadows in the shot. Now, I think you're probably going to be using this outside mostly, so you won't be running into this issue, because for me right now, this is going to be a tricky situation to get this without having a shadow or something like that. So if you are in that situation where you just can't get a good position, you can do it underslung like this, so you can bring it in from underneath and still get the person's voice, just so long as this is not in the shot. No part of this should be in the shot, period. That's perfect. The final item would be headphones. These are going to save you. We don't have a lot of these for checkout, but you can use your own headphones if you like, as long as they have this same little mini plug right here. That's a pretty standard plug, so you can use your own. You can check out ours, but you really need to wear headphones. You'll want to wear these while you're recording, so you can hear everything that the camera hears, everything that the microphone is picking up. Even though you have audio meters that are bouncing and showing you that you're getting audio, you don't really know what audio it is that you're getting unless you wear headphones. You could have issues with background noises when you're doing an interview. It could be a distant lawnmower. It could be an airplane hammering. Maybe that water fountain that looked so nice in the background you realize is obnoxiously loud now. But you won't know that unless you're wearing headphones. So you gotta wear headphones, absolutely. One last thing to mention about the tripod. When you're putting it away, just make sure all of the legs are retracted fully and locked. Make sure that you've taken the plate off of the bottom of the camera and you put it back on the tripod head. Make sure you retract the center column, and just to reiterate, it's really important that this is loose before you do it, because that's how a lot of the damage happens when people leave this locked and they try to crank this. It can chew up the teeth here that it uses to raise and lower, and it can also break off the handle potentially. So you'll want to make sure that this is loose and lower it and put the handle back down. And this handle needs to be put down as well so this whole thing can slide into the bag. So I'm going to loosen this. I have to loosen my pan. And we're going to put it on this particular tripod. The handle will go right where this bubble level is. So it's going to go right there. And now this whole thing will properly fit into the bag. Otherwise, it may not, and if you do it wrong, it may not be easy to get it out of the bag next time. So if you do that, we will appreciate it very much. And finally, just make sure your equipment is safe. When you put your camera on the tripod, make sure it's on there securely before you let go of it. When you're in public, make sure that your camera is always in full view of you. Don't walk away from it. You might want to have your hand on the tripod at all times, not only because you don't want somebody to take your camera away, but people might walk by and just bump into your tripod, knock it over. So be aware of that. And if it's in your car, make sure it's in the trunk and not in the car itself where people can see it as they're passing by. It's something people might want to take. So in Connect 2, I'll show you exactly where you can find these items that I just talked about. We'll use the search bar. So for the tripod, you don't want that bogan that's showing. That's a very big tripod, and that's not the one we saw today. I'm going to type in Sunpak, S-U-N-P-A-K. That's the brand. And the only items that come up are a Sunpak video light and the tripod, so obviously it's that Sunpak tripod that you're seeing right there. We could type in tripod, but then you're going to see a whole bunch of other tripods, and it's going to be a little bit confusing. So this is probably the best way to do it. Next, we'll type in R72 for the camera. The reason I'm doing that is because it will not only give us the camcorder, but it's also going to give us our battery choices. If we just type in Canon, it's going to be a little bit trickier because you're going to see a lot of other cameras and it'll be confusing, and some of them are very similar. So we see here a small battery, a large battery, and the camcorder itself. I showed you today just the large battery, but you are more than welcome to get a small and a large one, to book those. If the smalls are not available because there are less of those, you could conceivably book 2 large batteries. Next, I'm just going to type in LAV for the lav mic. There are 2 choices. There's the top one where it says lavalier microphone requires XLR cable. That is not the one you want. You want the Pearstone Polson lavalier microphone. Next, I'm going to type in shotgun for the Sony shotgun microphone. It's the one at the bottom, not the Rode shotgun microphone that says requires XLR cable. It's the Sony shotgun microphone, and the model is the ECM CG50. Next, I'm going to type in boom pole. And that one's easy because we only have the one. Finally, I'm going to type in headphones. And again, easy, we only have the one type. And there's one more thing that I didn't show. which you might need, which would be an SD card reader. Since the camera we're using records to an SD card, it presupposes that you have a card reader in your computer. Our iMacs here do, but you may not have that, so you might need a card reader. So just type in reader, and 3 options come up. The one at the top, the Panasonic AVC Cam reader, we no longer have. There's also the SanDisk Micromate reader and the Scioteam reader. Those we do have. My personal favorite is the SanDisk, so I would go with that. I find it to be the most reliable. And that about wraps it up. So if there are any questions, you can contact us via email. And that information is on the homepage of the Connect2 website.